Hello and welcome. Now I'd like to share with you one of the main barriers I find that I come across when doing my no buy / low buy, and this was definitely something I've worked with throughout my several years of doing this challenge, and I feel like this is one of the main reasons why people do not have success with a no buy or low buy, or one of the main obstacles that people face when doing a challenge of this kind. So I'm going to talk about what this issue is, and then I'm going to share with you the sort of 3 different things I have done to kind of move through this obstacle and find a different relationship to my challenge so that I keep persevering and keep getting the results I want to get, and yeah, sticking with it and being curious and excited and learning and not being disheartened and not feeling guilty and terrible about my own behavior, my own shopping habits, and just trying to find sort of what is a natural, healthy approach for me when it comes to being on a no buy or low buy. So this obstacle, I believe, is this concept around failure and success, and I feel like in our world we look at them as 2 completely separated individual components, and that they don't really have anything to do with each other. And what I found in my life as I've gotten older and gone through a few things is that I can both succeed really well at something and at the same time still have failed in some areas, and failure and success are actually in the same picture. They're not completely separated from each other. They can coexist in the same result. You could have done this a little bit better. Maybe you failed here, but you had a lot of success here, and they are intertwined in some way, and that is like a very natural human thing. I feel like in this world we go to this system of like perfectionism, and you have to succeed, so to succeed you have to ace this perfectly, you can't have any mistakes, you can't have any setbacks, anything like that. But I feel like any good thing that you ever achieve in your life usually has some setbacks, and it usually has some failures or faults or places where you just didn't make it the way that you thought you were going to, or you wanted to, or you hoped to. And you know, if you have a fluke and you are incredibly successful at something, that's great, but I don't see that as full success. I feel like full success comes with dealing with all the challenges, dealing with the setbacks, making mistakes, making a mess along the way, and it not being perfect. A fluke is just sort of like a random miracle that doesn't have the backing of someone's real hard work and effort and commitment and perseverance to change something in their life. You know, people do no buys for many different reasons, and some people are just super strong-willed and they can take on a challenge for a year and not purchase a single thing and do it for a year, and that they have certain shifts and it makes a difference in their life and they can just get on with things afterwards. There's other people like myself who take on a no buy but will buy stuff throughout the year, because there's times where I'm not as strong-willed, there's different things that come up, and there's different reasons where I'm suddenly triggered to shop. And that what is so important is that even though I'm having these triggers, I'm having these little setbacks or moments where I slip off tracks or I don't follow the rules, that I don't give up on my challenge, and I don't consider myself a failure just because I've made one mistake or several mistakes even. So this is the main thing I feel like we have to like unpack in ourselves. It's a social problem, and it's in so many structures. If you look around your life, you look around the world, this idea of success and failure and having them so separated from one another, when I think actually they kind of work in line. Like everything you do, if you analyzed it in a certain way, and that can depend on what sort of person you are. There's some people that do tend to look at things from the like, I could have done better, oh that wasn't good enough, sort of not negative but like critical side of the picture. Like they like to criticize maybe their own things and where they could have done better. And there's other people who are like, yeah, I did awesome, yeah, no worries, yeah, that was great, I'm doing really well, I'm succeeding at this. And I think fundamentally, to have real progress and to really grow from something, I think you have to see both the successes and the failures within what you do, and to kind of redefine it in a way so that it isn't about success and failure. It's just about you learning to understand yourself better and learning to grow in your capacities to meet the world and to meet your own behaviors, and it not be this like completely separated concept. So that's the issue, I feel like, is that we look at failure in one way and we look at success in another way, and there's this extreme perfectionism that if within the first month you've purchased something, or within the first week, or within the first 2 to 3 days of your no buy, you're like, oh damn it, I failed. Well, I might as well give up. I might as well, you know, not keep going with the challenge. But the point is to keep persevering, and even if you make so many mistakes and you purchase so many things throughout your no buy and you break your rules many times, there is still so much success that can be had in that challenge. We talk about this being a no buy, and you know, we definitely look at the numbers and the things that we do buy and how much money we save and those kind of things, and those are numbers that we can evaluate our challenge with, is through that statistical sort of like what is it? It's like somewhat impartial, because it's not really to do with inner shifts. It's sort of subjective, and you can see, okay, well, these are the numbers and this is how much that person purchased. The numbers is one element of tracking your no buy, low buy, but another element, and a fundamentally much more important element of tracking your no buy, is what is happening for you inwardly. How are you growing? How are you being challenged? How are you understanding things more? Are you becoming happier or more content through doing this process? What are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about the world? How are you feeling? Like, for me, that is so much more important, but I do find it hard, and I've definitely made this mistake a lot on YouTube, is that it's so much harder to talk about my feelings than it is for me to just talk about the numbers and show you the stuff that I've purchased, because I feel like that's easy. I don't have to dig very deep, and like, you know, it's easier to talk about stuff than it is to talk about how we feel and what's going on for us. So anyway, that's like the thing, right? How do we change our relationship to success and failure? So for me, one of the ways I have done this is look at success and define success for myself, and define failure for myself. Like, reimagine what these words or concepts could mean. So for me, success is not like, yeah, you've just done the best, you've hit the goals and you've succeeded the whole way, you've made no mistakes. For me, success is something I judge based off like how much I've grown throughout doing something, how I've persevered through something, and how content has doing this work made me, and what has it really developed in who I am. Like, what are the capacities I have, and do I feel more in myself, more in control of myself, more understanding and compassionate of myself than I was before I started this challenge. So that's one way that I would look at and define success. It's not just about the numbered result of how much you've purchased or how much you've saved, but it's also about all the other stuff that comes from going through something that is a challenge. I mean, in life, anytime you've ever grown ever is probably when it's been through going something that wasn't easy at the time to go through. And during that process and after that process, you see like, wow, okay, I've learnt these things, or I have found more confidence in myself, or I feel more like happy and able to manage my own feelings. I don't feel as anxious anymore. Whatever it is that you are able to move through in life, and to do so in a learning and healthy way, allows for really important capacities to be built in yourself as a human being in relationship to you and the world. So that's how I define success. The way I would then look at failure is that failure is not the right word. It is a word, but I think the reason why it's maybe not the right word is just because of all the connotations that live around failure. But for me, when I think of failure, I always think of an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to do something differently next time, an opportunity to crack myself open and see what is really going on in there. I feel like anytime I have had a slip up in my no buy, there has always been a dialogue, whether before I make the purchase or after I make the purchase. But it's not even really about the purchase itself. That's just kind of the catalyst? Is that the right word? It's just the thing that allows me to do all the other work around the thing that is actually what really fundamentally grows me when I look at why was I triggered to purchase something. What made me want to buy that? How was I feeling at the time? Was it like because there was a sale? Why do sales trigger me more than like just purchasing something at full price? Like, why do I always want to get a good deal? Is that because I've, you know, grown up where I haven't had much money? Or is it because like I feel like if someone else gets a better deal than me, then I feel ripped off? And then it's like, but why are you comparing yourself to a stranger? Does it really matter if someone else is getting something on sale and you're paying full price for it. Like, you get to have that conversation, and I feel like that to me is so interesting. Another element when it comes to the failure is you do really get to ground your success. Success, just like I said before, as a fluke, is just that. It doesn't have roots. It doesn't have like a way that you can track back how that person got there, right? It just kind of happened and you don't really know how that person achieved that. But when you have mistakes or failures or slip-ups or whatever you want to call them, it helps to actually ground your growth and ground your progress and help you to move in a way that is like accumulative in your capacity and your strength to get better at something, whatever that might be. So that's the first thing. Redefine success and failure for you. This is how I've done it for myself, but you can really sit there and think about this concept and wonder, like, how does it play out in your life? What does that look like? How does that trigger you? Even the word failure, like, I feel like some people are in a process of such self-sabotage because of this social construct around failure and what that looks like, which is basically, if you make any mistake, you might as well give up because you can't do this. And that's not how a human being functions. Like, we're fundamentally flawed. We're meant to make a lot of mistakes. That's a part of being human. That's the human condition. And so how do we start thinking about these social structures in a way that actually are not set up to like reflect what a machine is good or capable of doing, but actually what a human being is and how a human being is and what do they need and how do we use language and look at these concepts. I feel like the words in themselves are not flawed or a problem or whatever. I think it's how we understand those words and those sort of concepts based off our own context. And for someone, they may not be triggered in the same way I'm triggered around the words success and failure, but it's how do we change that dialogue in ourselves so we can have a healthier relationship to those concepts and words, and therefore we have a healthier relationship to our own journey. We're not going to be put off by like a few different mistakes that we've made along the way. We understand that that is a fundamental part of our journey and what actually makes us genuinely successful. So there we go, I'm using the word because I have a different relationship to the successful word when I use it. So the next area for me is learning to really get excited about mistakes. And it doesn't mean that you just start making like mistakes or buying things just for the sake of it so that you have more, I don't know, learning opportunities, but really to see those mistakes as the ground for learning and the ground for change. I feel like it is such an interesting challenge, the no-buy, because it really allows you to suddenly become a student of your own behavior. Like, to really sort of sit back and watch yourself in relationship to consumerism and therefore in some ways relationship to the world, and what gets triggered in you and how do you respond, and really just kind of get curious about yourself and your own nature. I feel like we know ourselves so little in some ways. Like, I feel like we know ourselves in one way, in what is quite conscious to us, what we like and what we don't like, the people we care for, the things that, you know, maybe bring us joy in life, but there is so much stuff that we are so unaware about how we operate, which is all this kind of unconscious behavior that is only going to show itself when we kind of pay attention to it and we give it an opportunity to, and we give ourselves an opportunity to watch that and see what can unfold. Like I said before, all real growth that has happened in my life has been because I have gone through something that isn't easy, and I have had to see the different parts of myself that aren't perfect, that are really messy and make mistakes, and I've had the opportunity to see that and look at that, and sometimes I've done a really good job of understanding those things and moving through it. And sometimes you understand it a little bit, but you come back to it later, and it's sort of this process of you have like a core issue or something that keeps happening, a core pattern in your life, and it's sort of this process of circling it slowly but surely until you really get to that root of what is going on. Sort of it takes many times before you maybe really get to understand why is it that I keep doing this, but all the times that you put in the work is a little bit closer around this sort of spiral of learning to understand what is the core of why you keep meeting this same barrier or meeting this same sort of like slip up in yourself. So those are the main things that I would suggest that you try and do, and what I've done for myself. So recognize that both success and failure can coexist in the same result. Redefine what does success and what does failure look like for yourself. And yeah, success for me when it comes to this challenge is also like, am I growing by doing this? Am I enjoying the process? Do I feel like I'm growing in the direction I want to be growing in? And if the answer is yes, then you're probably on the right track with something. And then the next area is to see those mistakes, those slip-ups, those failures, if you were, as real opportunities to grow and to ground your later in life success, your success with the challenge, to really ground it and get the most out of it as you can. And you know, you can look at my no-buy updates from the last 3 years. In the beginning, I bought a lot of things, and then the next year I bought a few less things but still had a lot of hand-me-downs, and then this year I've bought, you know, a handful of things and quite a few hand-me-downs as well. And like, at no point in any of my challenge have I ever like technically been really successful at my no-buy. Like, if we look at the data just off the numbers alone, I have pretty successfully failed my no-buy every single year because I have constantly purchased things. But that's if I just look at the numbers, you know. I feel like you sit there and you make your no-buy rules and you are putting something up in the stars. You're saying this is the highest sort of goal that I am reaching for, which is like to not buy anything except for things that are really a necessity, for example. And that's the goal that you put up there. But you're a human. You can't necessarily get to the stars, but you can do as much as you can to get as close as you can to that goal within a year or however long you give yourself that time. And what has been really important for me, and the reason why I keep doing this challenge, and it's my 3rd year now of doing it, is because I am not someone who is so strong-willed that I can nail a no-buy year in 1 year. It is going to take me time, and quite a lot of time, to get better at exercising my will, at getting to understand myself and why I make the purchases I make, or the failures or mistakes that I make, and to really get the growth actually that I want to get out of this challenge. You know, those are the numbers. If we look at the numbers in terms of my no-buy years, I have failed miserably. If I look at myself and I evaluate what success means for me in relationship to this challenge, I feel like I have grown tremendously. I have learned so much. I have felt so much more confident and comfortable and happy and just like at ease in myself when it comes to shopping now. I really am not that fussed to buy stuff. Like, even the other day I was out with my grandma and we're just wandering around the stores, and she just kept trying to like watch me to see if I liked something enough that she could buy me a gift, which is so sweet. And I was like, no, I really don't need any of this stuff, and I'm not even at the point where I would let someone else buy it for me just for the sake of it, you know. I was like, when I really need something, I'll let you know, don't worry about it. But it's just such a different relationship to walk through stores now and just not feel like I need to buy something because I feel incomplete in some way. Like, that's just not where I'm at. And I still buy purchases or different things on my no-buy year, but it's such a different dialogue that happens both before I make the purchase, kind of in the store usually before I make the purchase, and then my reflection afterwards as well. And I feel like all these things have just made me feel so much happier and more confident, and I'm just so excited about this challenge, and I really want to do whatever I can to help other people to have success with their no buys or low buys. So if you have any questions whatsoever, if you have any videos you'd like me to make, or just anything that you're interested or grappling with yourself, I want to try and create more videos around how to meet this challenge with a mindset that's also going to be helpful. I feel like I do always, often, mostly, all the time, talk about the numbers and the stuff because it's comfortable for me to talk about those things, but I do want to talk about the other elements and how I understand myself and some of the struggles I go through, and what are the sort of thoughts that I have or concepts that I work with so that I feel more able to meet this challenge and more able to meet like the social pressures that are always trying to convince you to buy things. Anyway, I hope you have found this video helpful in some way. Please let me know how you're doing in the comments below with your challenge or just in general, and if you have any questions, I will do my best to sit with them and try and come up with something that I can reflect on based off my context and what I understand. And you know, this concept isn't the only reason why people can't succeed at a no buy or low buy. There is many other obstacles and things that can be a challenge for someone's life. I have just found that this is the most challenging thing that I've had to meet and overcome, so that I can continue on this challenge and continue to do it for a while, so that yeah, I can get the benefits that I'm trying to get and the success that I've defined for myself, and that I feel like slowly but surely I'm growing into, and yeah, just getting more of, if that makes sense. So anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!